Hi, my name is Adeline Newman Ting. Through my father, my traditional name is Kwakwaka'wakw, and I'm Kwakwaka'wakw and Coast Salish, as well as English, Irish, and Scottish settler. Through my mother, my name is Ding Liwen, and I'm Chinese from Taiwan. I'm here today to introduce Carey Newman, an artist, professor, and most importantly, my father. I will share 3 things with you during this speech. 1, passion and inspiration are important. 2, leaders are made, not born. And 3, even though kids don't make the world we grow up in, we still have a responsibility to make it a better place. Passion and inspiration fuel art, innovation, and much more. When you find your passion, you immediately know because it makes you happy. You love it. My passion is skipping rope. My father's is making art for positive change. My parents believe that leaders are raised. I grew up knowing this, and even from a young age, I have done things such as making speeches, standing on stage to hand out scholarships with my dad, and gone to important events where I was often the only kid. It is a lot of responsibility, and it can be even harder knowing that I'm part of my dad's inspiration. But I hope that I can continue his legacy. His work is important, not just for most adults out there, but for my generation. In fact, it may be even more important for my generation because everything adults have done until now, bad or good, is making the future that kids inherit. And since we are the ones who have to live here, I want to help make it a better world than it is now. That means that me and my generation have responsibilities too. We need to do what we can to try not to repeat the mistakes of the past. That is why I accept the responsibilities, like coming here to talk to you today. I want everyone, including kids, to create more innovative art that will contribute to a better future. Art with stories and a purpose. With that, I will pass you over to my father. Giiksam, xie, thank you.
I have to follow that. Yo, Nugwam Carey Newman, Hayman Bachumtla'i Hayalthkin'geme. Through my father, I'm Kwakwaka'wakw from the Kukwekum, Giiksam, and WaWalaby'ie clans of northern Vancouver Island, and Coast Salish from Cheam of the Stalo Nation along the upper Fraser Valley. Through my mother, I'm a descendant of English, Irish, and Scottish settlers. This traditional way of introduction both connects and holds me accountable to my ancestors, past, present, and future. And it's in that spirit that I'd like to acknowledge 2 people. My father, Victor Hemasaha, an artist, teacher, and residential school survivor, whose resilience made a better life for me and my sisters, who showed me how to become an artist. And my daughter, Adeline, who inspires me to imagine a better future and for whom I work to make a better world. When I was 5 years old, I would watch my dad carving masks and rattles in his shop. He made it look so easy, and not knowing any better, I cut my thumb trying to carve a wooden car. That was the first time that I tried to do something beyond my understanding and abilities. But my parents were encouraging, and without anybody to tell me what I couldn't do, I was never taught any different. I went on to make my career as an artist, and guided by 3 Kwakwaka'wakw concepts, I try to use my art to make a difference in the world. The first concept is about accepting and honoring responsibility to the past, present, and future. It's a way of understanding reciprocity across generations, and it isn't so much taught as it's demonstrated in the words and actions of our hereditary leaders. The second is held in the Kwakwala word, awitnikyola, meaning to live in good relationship with the land, air, water, spirit worlds, and everything in them. It's a perspective that places humans within rather than above the cycle of life. The third is mayakala, which calls for us to work and speak in ways that embody respect for the land, for self, and for each other. When I reflect on my life and career, I can trace how these ideas have guided my heart and my hands. I can also see how, in the process of transforming one thing to another, I too have been remade. To describe what I call being the maker and the material, I think back to when I was about to become a parent, and my capacity for love grew larger than I ever could have imagined the moment our daughter was born. The creative process does something similar, just not as quickly. The lessons that unfold from making each artwork are slow-growing seeds that often take years to break the surface of my understanding. But each of the projects that I'm about to share with you have shifted how I understand the world and helped me to evolve as a person. Perhaps that's the magic of art, because at its best, rather than telling people what to think or how to feel, it acts as an invitation for each of us to make our own meanings and significance and imagine things that are bigger than ourselves. In 2010, I heard that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was calling for projects to commemorate residential schools. As the son of a survivor and as a new parent, I decided that I wanted to make something that would connect the experiences of residential school survivors across Canada. After rejecting all of the ideas that were familiar to me, like carving totems or sculpting metal, I realized that to carry the weight and significance of residential school history and to express the individual and collective experiences of survivors, I had to think far beyond anything I had made before. After pondering this for more than a year, I came up with an idea. The Witness Blanket, a tapestry made of objects and memories to be gathered from residential schools, churches, government buildings, and cultural structures across the country. I sent in my application and in 2012 learned that the idea had been selected. 2 years later, with the help of a small team, the 10-foot-tall, 40-foot-long artwork made of over 880 contributions was unveiled. And today, nearly a decade after its completion, the Witness Blanket has found a long-term home in the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, and I am still working on a range of related projects that include a national tour, a documentary film, 2 books, a digital education platform, a virtual reality project, 2 full-scale replicas that continue to travel in this country and others, and even a contract that recognizes the Witness Blanket as having legal rights of its own. Since the original was completed, every one of those related projects has been suggested by someone who saw the Witness Blanket and wanted to contribute to its work. You see, even though this artwork deals with the worst of Canadian history, it was made to share simple truth through memories and everyday objects. How a person feels about what they see or learn is up to them. But through items like hockey skates, braids of hair, letters home, personal memories are evoked that reveal shared or contrasting experiences and make connections that might otherwise remain unknown. Here is where art seeds change. Because when things become personal, they become important. And once something is important, we are more willing to take it upon ourselves to help make the change. The next project I want to share deals with the current day devastation of old-growth ecosystems. The totems I carve are made from ancient trees. And as those trees continue to disappear, honoring my responsibility to future generations and upholding the teachings of a Kwakwaka'wakw means changing the way that I make them. So, embracing technology and working with really smart people, we've designed a system to make full-size totems out of multiple, much smaller, second-growth trees. A sort of totem 2.0. The idea is that if I can change, as an artist from a culture that's held cedar trees as sacred since time began, then industry and policymakers can change too. These two projects have given me a sense of purpose and changed me as a person. They've also taken an emotional toll because the weight of colonialism is cumulative. From poverty, racial injustice, and gender inequality to the acceleration of the climate crisis and exploitation of the planet, it affects every aspect of all of our lives. For some, the sheer number of problems we face make it difficult to know what to do. Seems so large, it's hard to believe that any one of us can make a difference. And although I'm proud of the work that I've done, colonialism is so widespread that sometimes it still feels like I'm just treading water. But here is where seeds change art. Because despite the significance of the Witness Blanket and the possibilities of Totem 2.0, they are both responses to colonial harms. And if I were to spend my entire career reacting to the past and present, then any change I effect with my art would be influenced by the worst parts of what it means to be Indigenous in this country. But Indigenous people are made of more than our traumas. We come from unique and beautiful cultures. We are resilient. And I want to make artwork in celebration of that. So I challenged myself to think of a project that refuses to be defined by colonialism, something rooted in the resurgence of cultural ways. And from the many lessons I've learned from my art, my family, and my culture, I pieced together the third and final project that I came here to share with you. It's called The Seedling, and I describe it in 3 simple steps. Plant a tree, design a totem in digital 3D, and get the University of Victoria to commit to make and raise the pole when the tree is full grown, about 600 years from now. This project brings together technology, art, nature, and asks us to reconsider our relationships with the land, with time, and with each other. The simple promise to grow a tree and make a totem 30 generations from now invites us to reconsider the systems we accept and imagine multiple pathways to a more sustainable future. Our society is defined by and beholden to the arbitrary timelines and measurements of success that are inherent to our current economics and politics. By taking the perspectives of Indigenous peoples who've lived sustainably on these lands since before the Great Pyramids were made, and projecting them far into a future beyond the systems and imperatives of today, the seedling ignites a beacon from the past to lead us into the future. And by enacting our responsibility across generations, we not only promise a better world for our children and our children's children, we live healthier and more purposeful lives today. Have you ever thought, I am not an artist? I ask because I can't count the number of times I've heard people say this or something about how they can barely draw a stick person. I think this mindset is something we are taught because creativity isn't limited to skills with a paintbrush or chisel. Artistry belongs to everyone, and it exists in big ideas and aspirational dreams. Put a sheet of paper and a box of crayons in front of a 5-year-old child, and with very little encouragement, they create entire worlds. But for far too many of us, growing up means that our vast and vibrant imaginations are slowly replaced by the practicality of social expectations and economic obligations. But sometimes, in the process of setting attainable goals, we limit the size of our dreams. Because the reality of providing a place to live and food to eat, working 40+ hours a week, doesn't leave much time for imagination, let alone for changing the world. So eventually, we stop attending to our creative voices and begin to believe that only exceptional people do extraordinary things. But each of the projects that I've described here today have taken many hands to make. And each of them have grown bigger than I could have ever dreamed. So what would happen if, regardless of circumstance, we refused to let go of our creative beings? Because when it comes to the biggest challenges we face, we need even bigger ideas to fix them. And to make those ideas into reality, we need hope. We need to believe that there is something that each of us can do to make a difference. For me, that hope begins with my father, who, despite the traumas of residential school, found his way back to culture through carving. And it continues to grow in the form of my daughter, who is already a model of determination and inspiration for myself and for others. And it leads to an impossibly big idea, the seedling. A dream so large that nobody here will live to see it come true. But contained within it are lots of smaller steps toward positive change that everyone can do. Each step is a kind of seed, stretching our relationship with time, respect for the past, present, future. Changing our relationship with land and technology, awitnikyola. Rebuilding our relationships with each other, mayachala. I'm going to close by sharing the most important lesson I've learned. From the little wooden car and my very first scar, to the witness blanket, the seedling, and everything in between. It's that everyone can make something bigger than themselves. Because to do something special, you don't have to be anybody else than you already are. You just have to find something that you care about, and then let your 5-year-old self show you what to do. Giiksam, and thank you for witnessing.